Hello, writers and readers. This is Deirdre, and I am here with the Writers Uncut live chat every Wednesday with my wonderful writing friend, Cheyenne Young. Oh, hey, there you are. Okay, I'm going to invite you to join me. So we do this live, so it's both of us talking about writing, publishing, answering your questions. Hey, Anne. Oh, here comes Shay. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. My face seems so much darker than yours. Can you see me?
It does. Want me to, I don't know.
Well, there's like no natural light in my house. There's a window right there, and I still feel like I'm cloaked in darkness. But
I actually have a light on.
I have a light on too. There's a window and a light. Oh, the cat just walked out of the way. That got a little better. Anyway.
So I want to say really quickly, if anyone missed it, Cheyenne was just on live with her agent and another guest whose name I didn't catch.
James.
And they were talking. James?
Yes, he was the assistant, and now he's like a junior agent, so that's cool.
Cool, yeah. And they had some really insightful and interesting things to say. So when you're done hanging out with us, go check. Was it on yours or is it on the Bookends?
It's on theirs, Bookends Literary at Instagram.
Yeah. So go watch that too today. It was really good.
Yes, it was fun. I felt like I needed to be more professional with them than with you. So you'll get to see me being super professional. I only made like 5 or 10 jokes, so I think I did really well.
I like the one about being perfect.
I am.
But
everything's perfect. I don't even make typos, you guys.
So we have Cassie here today, and my agent Anne is with us. So hi, everybody.
Hi, Anne. We want to have Anne on one of our future episodes, maybe next week. I want to get her to come over and be on the video with us. So you guys need to pressure her into doing that. She lives very close to me, so this can happen.
Nice. Cassie said that you're a vampire.
I know, maybe I am. I don't know. I feel very pale, but it looks like it's dark, and there's like every possible lighting source I have turned on in here. So,
I was gonna say maybe that could be an inspiration for a new like paranormal romance or something. The vampire life
appears in a dark room all the time. Hi, Trisha.
Well, anyway, let's get. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying hi to Trisha.
Oh, hi, Patricia. Oh, yeah. Oh, it scrolls slowly. I was actually going to say I started to type a question to ask at the end during the Bookends literary live that you just did. I started to type a question, but then they were like, "Oh, no questions."
Yeah,
and I was like, So if anybody makes a comment or says anything, just so you know, I think there's like a little delay or something with the way it scrolls. So like either copy and paste it again, or I don't know, just we'll be mindful of that. And if we don't get to it today, if we don't see it, we will look at it after and we can answer it in a future live. So.
But definitely ask any questions you have, because that's kind of the whole point of this, is we want to answer your questions.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so let's get to it. Our first one. Do you want to ask it this time and answer first, since
Sure.
I did last time? Okay.
Oh gosh, I lost my screen. Okay, so you're propped up on my laptop screen, just so you know, so I can cheat and look at the internet. Okay, so our first question today actually comes from Cassie, who I think is still watching this. And she said, what is the most disappointing thing in writing? I don't know if she means publishing too or just writing, but we could probably answer both. You want to go first?
Well, it's up to you. I'll go first if you want me to, or you can.
Should we open a bottle of wine first? Because we're going to need it to talk about this.
We're going to need a while. And that's actually that segues perfectly into my answer. I think the most disappointing thing in writing for me, and this has to do with, I think, one of my own personal character flaws, is time. Like, it takes so much time for everything, from writing to revising to editing to publishing, it does not work with my lack of patience that I innately have. I'm learning still after like 10 years to be patient and understand that there are a lot of moving pieces and there's a lot involved, behind the scenes. And even before that, there's a lot involved in making sure that a story is really where it needs to be and everything is fully fleshed out. And it's actually something I'm encountering right now with Anne, if you're still here. It's a really good lesson, I think, for me is to learn the process of patience, because then, of course, it carries over into everything in our lives. But kind of having the ability to step back and kind of look at things from a more objective perspective and really understand that, on the writing side, it's me really involved in doing that. But then when it gets to publishing, there's so many other people involved, and they all have to do their jobs, and it just takes a while. Now, that's not necessarily true for independent publishing, because we could, write something up right now and go publish it and it would be for sale. But if you want to publish something of quality and you want, people to enjoy it and to gain something from it, I think patience is probably one of the most disappointing isn't really the right word, but I'm just like, I want this to happen yesterday. And it's like, no, Deirdre, like, chill out. This will happen. You just have to be patient and it's going to be better for it. So that's kind of my short answer to that question. Uh-oh. Oh no, are you still there? I hope we're still live. We're having a little technical problem. It looks like Cheyenne is. And then invite her back. I hope you're all still there. I need to go live again with Cheyenne. Hello. Okay. But anyway, yeah, that's a really good question. Oh, I'm just looking here. Okay, there you are.
I'm back. Like, your face froze, and then the whole screen went black, and it said, like, you've been disconnected from the video, and so I had to request to add myself back.
You froze, and the little spinny thing was on. I don't know if you get that ever. And
that's what it did on your side. And I was like, what? Okay, sorry, guys.
Yeah, we're back. Anyway, so I don't know if you heard my whole answer, but that was kind of the quick answer to the question being the most disappointing thing I've encountered in writing is just it takes time and to be patient. So welcome to a few new people. We're talking about writing and publishing today. And so Cheyenne's going to answer the question now.
Yes, so the question is, what is the most disappointing thing in writing? And also to the new people who joined, we want to answer your questions too. So if you have any, just type them in the chat box. So I really agree with your answer that just how long everything takes can be very disappointing, and both in writing and publishing, because when I get a really good idea, I want it to be done now. It's like, I don't want to spend weeks and weeks drafting this thing. I just want it to be done. So another thing I find disappointing in writing is, ironically, myself. It's like there's this mental block when you're creating something, especially if you're creating something that you want other people to read and to like. And if I'm just writing for my own self, then it's probably no trouble whatsoever. But I don't do that anymore. I write specifically for publishing. But it's disappointing in yourself when you constantly feel like you're not good enough, you're not writing fast enough or well enough or creative enough. Or it's so funny because it feels like the publishing world, ironically, it moves very slow, but it feels like everything in the book world is going so fast and you're just being left behind because you're just not good enough, you're taking too long, whatever. And it's like I get in my own head. And that really is the most disappointing thing, is once you start pursuing publication, writing isn't as fun anymore, because I second guess every single sentence I write. I second guess it. I'm thinking about my ideas, my characters, like, is this too cliche? Is this not interesting? And it takes a lot of the fun out of it, which kind of comes back to a previous episode where I said my favorite part of writing is revising, because to me, that's the only fun part, is getting to see what you've done and make it better. Because the initial writing is like always disappointing to me. I'm either not happy with what I came up with, or I'm not happy with how many words I wrote. I wish I did more, or wish I did better, So, and that's not I mean, I know that sounds bleak. That's not all the time. Sometimes I have amazing writing days and I'm really excited and really happy about it. But a lot of times that's where my disappointment comes in, is feeling like I'm not good enough. And so I have to remind myself that well, actually, I don't even know what I do when I feel I'm not good enough. I send a complaining email to you, and I just kind of take a break and tell myself that I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. And you kind of have to keep working through to get to where it becomes fun again. Because there are so many disappointing aspects of writing, but the good parts of them outweigh the disappointment. So you just have to chug on through and just keep working for it. It'll be worth it in the end.
It will. I was going to ask you what you do to kind of combat that, and you definitely answered. And I think this is something that it's a disappointment, and it's something we don't really want to look at. But if we look at it too closely, it can kind of keep us from writing. And I think the key is to keep going, to always keep going, despite disappointments, despite distractions, despite anything that might come up. You're still here. After how many years, you're still writing, you're still doing it. And so despite of or in spite of some of these disappointments, sometimes like we use that, when we have that moment of clarity, we use that as fuel to kind of push us further. It's almost like we're competing with ourselves. Like, I've come up against this block, but I'm going to fight through it. I'm going to keep going. And sometimes, a project just isn't working, and that's a different thing. But when we do see like everyone, or it appears as if everyone is just like racing ahead of us and having all this success and doing all these amazing things and having these opportunities, and we're kind of like, okay, where does that leave me? I'm still on like page 10. I think it's really important for us to also stay in our lane. That's something you and I talk about a lot. Just to not be looking at what's going on around us, just stay focused on our thing and what we're doing, and take the time to rant to a friend, like get the disappointment and the distraction and everything, get it out of your head, like onto the page, or into the ear of a friend or whatever, whoever you lean on, and then come back refreshed and keep going. So I like that you're really candid about that too, because it's a hard thing to admit, I think.
Well, I honestly don't know if I could talk about writing without getting into that, because a lot of writing is disappointing and a lot of it's hard. And I think it's a blessing and a curse, because if you're watching this and you're a writer, like, you understand when you get the writing bug, you have to write. You can't just ignore it. So it is kind of a curse, because you're like, I want to do this so much. I'm so passionate about this, and it sucks so bad at times. And so, and I think we all experience that. At least all the writers I talk to can tell you some pretty bleak, sad, disappointing things that they've experienced. But we just keep doing it. And maybe, I don't know. It's like, I can't stop. So I'm going to keep writing, and we're going to have disappointments, and you just have to power through them, because, and I say this all the time. Like, I always say, I did this to myself. I decided to write. I decided to pursue this. No one's forcing me. Like, I did it to myself. So when it's disappointing, I just have to suck it up. It's like, it is what it is. This is my own fault. I did this to myself. So, okay. Cassie said, the reason why I always say no when people ask if I want my daughter to be a writer. Oh my gosh, for real. For real.
Yeah, for real. I have something to say. You mentioned Liz Gilbert's book, Big Magic, this morning on the other live that you did with Kim. And I believe in that book, you might remember better than me, I believe she mentioned something called a shit sandwich. Excuse my language if anyone has kids watching. Hopefully, Cassie, your daughter's taking a nap or something. But she mentions the shit sandwich. And the idea is kind of, I think it was from a guy named Mark Manson, who's a blogger and a writer, and he wrote the book. I think she adapted it from him, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F-U-C-K. I won't say that one, just in case some young people are watching. But anyway, okay, she's at daycare. You're doing some strategic planning with us, so good. But anyway, so she was talking about the shit sandwich, and I think that's originally from him. So I want to give credit where credit is due. But the idea is that we are willing to do something, face disappointment, face, long days at work and then longer nights writing, sending our kids to daycare so we have a little bit of time to ourselves to kind of create what we, our work and on all these things. Whatever we're willing to do and still face that disappointment, however it looks to each of us, that's the shit sandwich. That's the thing we're willing to eat, even though it's hard going down, even though it might be kind of nasty, it might hurt, it might suck, whatever. We're willing to do that for our passion and our love of this bug, as you called it, that's kind of bitten us, and we can't not do it. And when we try to, in my experience, I've stepped away for a period of time or whatever, and then I'll find myself doing a project that involves a lot of writing, and I'm just like, what is this? And also a good friend of mine, she loved to write when we were in high school together. I was like, I thought of her as like a writer, and she's going to be a writer someday. And then she went off to college and got a job in the corporate world. And it turns out she does a lot of writing in her job. It's all like technical writing, but it's like, yeah, when you have that in you, it just, you'll do anything pretty much to still be able to do it.
Maybe pertaining to the question, we can call it the disappointment sandwich. But I do remember that from her book. Yeah, it's like, it's all the disappointment in writing is what you're willing to put up with to get what you want, which is a published book in most people's cases. And that is so funny that you say that, because there have been so many times, more than I want to admit, where I say, you know what, I'm just going to quit. Like, I'm done. This is too hard. I'm not going to keep writing. And guess what? I start writing again. So it's, or it's like the next thing I know, I will be plotting out a novel, or I don't consider it a novel in my head because I've quit, but I'm plotting out a story, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing it again, and then I'm writing again. So I just accepted a long time ago that I can't quit, and I don't really want to quit. You just have to kind of power through the disappointment and frustration, because I'm telling you, when something good happens, it totally outweighs everything disappointing in writing, because I worked for 10 years before I got my agent, and just that, and I actually got 3 offers at the same time within like 2 days apart. So it's like, just that feeling made up for all 10 years of disappointment. It made it totally worth it. And if you had told me 10 years ago, oh, by the way, it's going to take you this long to get an agent, I probably would have tried to quit again, So it's just, you just have to eat that disappointment sandwich, and you just have to put up with it, because it is totally worth it in the end. And then even after you've had successes, you're going to have more disappointments. And my book is on submission right now, my next one, and I'm completely terrified because I know the rejections are going to start rolling in. And it's like, I've already had some yeses, but I'm going to get some more nos, and it just, that just is what it is.
And it keeps going. That's my cousin Colleen. Hi, Cole.
Oh, hi.
That's actually kind of a nice segue. If no one else has questions that they want to have us answer live right now, the other thing we were going to talk a little bit briefly about is a reflection on 1 week post publication. So Cheyenne's book, The Last Wish of Sasha Cade, which is amazing, came out last Tuesday. And so she's had a week now since her book baby has been born and is out in the world. And we were going to just talk a little bit about, we deal with the disappointments in writing, and we work so hard. And, for many of us, it takes a really long time. I was talking about patience before, to kind of achieve these goals that we have. And then when we get to the goal, when the thing happens, when the book is published, when we get the agent, whatever it looks like, then what? Then, like, what's next? So I'm curious to hear maybe a few things about that from you, and this past week, how it's been.
I'll tell you what happens next. Paralyzing fear. So yes, if you're watching and you have a question about anything unrelated to book release, please ask it. I would like an out. So my book, where is it? This is backwards, but it says The Last Wish of Sasha Cade. So it came out a week ago, and our last video was, I guess, the day after it released.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have a terrible memory, guys. This past week has been really fun, really exciting, and really terrifying. And it was actually, speaking of disappointment and writing, it was actually more disappointing than I realized. it's almost like you spend 2 years waiting for your book to hit the shelves, and once it does, you're kind of like, oh, okay, so it's done. Like it's over now. It's all out of my hand. It's out in the world, and it really wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be. But now that we've had a week to reflect on it, things have really calmed down a lot, which is actually really sad because the first few days I was getting all kinds of social media alerts and posts, and everyone was talking about it, and I was so excited. And now it's like I don't hear anything all day on Twitter. Like it's been several days and nobody mentions my book. And so it's like, wow. And then yesterday the next new round of teen books were released and everyone's talking about those. So it's like you work very, very hard and you're really only in the spotlight for a short time. So then it's up to you, and I've been working very hard to promote my book in any possible way I can. So, it's like that's another thing. There's the disappointment creeping back in, but it's worth it. It's worth it because I have my book and people are reading it, and it might take them a little longer than 1 week to find it and read it, and hopefully they do because I don't want my book to sink into obscurity, which is what I worry will happen. But I mean, I guess in a week since release, I've gotten calmer. I can sleep now. The first couple days after my book came out, I didn't really sleep at all. I was just worried about it. I don't even know how to describe the kind of stress that I felt that my book was out in the world. And sometimes even thinking that some stranger might be reading it right now was enough to like completely freak me out. And then it's like, and once again, I'm like, why did I do this? Like, why did I want to be a writer? I thought this is what I wanted, and now it's freaking me out. So it's like, no matter what step of the process you're in, there's still so much disappointment all the time. So that's why you really have to just hold on to all the happiness that you can find. Because I realized the last couple of weeks, I feel like I'm constantly talking about doom and gloom and sadness and depression, but it's really not all that. And I think we've just caught me at a bad time. But it's,
Because you're a vampire.
yes, because there's apparently no lighting in this house at all. That's why my Instagram photos are so bad, you guys. I went outside to take the newest picture I posted. I had to go outside to do that. But, and I don't like doing that because as a vampire, going outside in the sun is not very fun.
Hard. I imagine it's really hard for you. I want to just highlight what you said, though, really holding on to the happiness and coming back, kind of the theme of this chat unintentionally is patience and focusing on the long game. You take so much time to write and then find an agent and then the publishing process and then the book is out in the world, and then what? Well, we keep at it and we can do it all over again. Hopefully not finding the agent part. Hopefully that's like, a long-term relationship, but it really is a marathon and not a sprint. And, if anyone is to take anything away from this, it's to, I think, Shane, I really admire how honest you are with, the emotional side of this process. It's grueling, it's hard. And at the same time, to like, as we're holding on to that very, that reality, and to kind of keep holding our other hand of the happiness and the joy that writing brings us, and the relationships and connections we make, and the power of our words, and imagining someone reading one of our books and how that might make them feel, or how that might make them feel connected or inspired or whatever it is. And so a lot of disappointments along this road, but also a lot of joy. So.
Oh, yes. Well, and I've had some really great reviews from readers, and I've had quite a few people reach out to me already and tell me how my story impacted them. And that was something I actually never expected. And this is my fifth book. Yeah, this is my fifth book. I had never even really crossed my mind, and this book is really resonating with people. And so getting those reviews or those comments or messages, however they reach out to me, is very fulfilling and very exciting. And I kind of never know what to say, because I just want to say, thank you with a bunch of emojis, and I feel like that doesn't really express it enough, because it is so cool to know that somebody read and loved my book. Like, it's very cool. It's completely worth all the rejections and all the disappointment. So that's another one of those little things that it just makes it all worth it in the end. So you just cannot give up. You just have to keep trying. Yep. Hello to our newcomer. If y'all have any questions about writing or publishing, ask them in the chat box so we can answer them. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep talking about sad things.
um, I want to say we're coming up on the end of our time together. But if we didn't answer your question now, we have a queue. We have everything that anyone's asked us written down on a list, and we will just answer each week. Kind of our idea, and keeping time in mind, because we have to get back to writing and promoting our stuff, is we want to answer one of your questions that we have in our queue that's been asked either in a story or in our comments, and then answer live or just chat about something quickly. So please do, if anything comes to mind, make sure you DM us or leave a comment on one of our posts or whatever, because we love to connect with you and answer your questions and share our experience with you. So if we don't get to it today, we will.
And also, you can find us on YouTube. We save all these videos and upload them at YouTube Writers Uncut. We don't have a URL yet because they're incredibly mean and they make us wait 100 days till we can have it. But if you just search Writers Uncut, you'll find us. And we also have a brand new Facebook group, which is Facebook Writers Uncut, I guess. If you search it, you'll find it. And we're just hoping to have a bunch of writers and aspiring writers to join us so we can chat about all things writing. And we want to do it in our way, which is the uncut way. So it's uncensored, not sugar-coated. Just we want to talk about writing the way it really is. So, and maybe, help people with stuff that we wish we had known a long time ago. So find us on YouTube and Facebook and send us your questions. And I guess it's been a long time, so we should probably wrap this up.
We could just keep up with this. Like, we could start talking about our dogs and
we can. I mean, there's a cat 6 inches away from me right now, and I'm happy to procrastinate writing. So.
But anyway, if you're just catching the end of this, you can watch it live on my Instagram this week for the next 24 hours. Next week, we will be back on @NormalShay. And again, you can check us out on YouTube and Facebook. Facebook is really just a place for us to continue this conversation in a non-live setting. So, there's a little more privacy involved. We don't want the whole, potentially the whole world to see what we're talking about. So, if you have questions you don't necessarily, want to ask here, that's a nice place to also inquire. And so we look forward to seeing you next week. We will be back at 9 a.m. Pacific next week, right?
11 a.m. Texas time.
Yep, and that's noon in the East Coast. So, anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.